LGBTQFilm.com.
And we continue our look at the upcoming Frameline 39 San Francisco International LGBTQ Film Festival with a very interesting film and a very fun film. With me right now is Tina Takemoto, an artist and professor at the California College of the Arts, who is the driving force behind the documentary Sex, Politics, and Sticky Rice, which features some very insightful themes and maybe some familiar faces. Thank you very much for being here.
Sure.
Give us an idea, first of all, in terms of sort of an overview, in terms of what this is about.
Sure. So this is a short documentary. It features 5 Asian American lesbians, and they talk about their adventures in sex, activism, and politics in and around the San Francisco Bay Area in the 70s and 80s.
And the way it's all so intertwined in their lives. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And they were part of the first generation of out Asian Pacific Islanders in the BayArea. So their story is quite distinctive.
And I think for a lot of the community, too, maybe an unfamiliar one, not understanding the activism that was present at the time. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And even, for instance, coming out stories are unfamiliar. So we might assume that immigrant parents might be very not encouraging of their children, but for instance, Giselle Poen, her parents owned a restaurant in the Castro, and that was when she met the first gay and lesbian people. And then in 1979, her father found a flyer for the Gay-Lesbian March on Washington and gave it to his daughter and dared her to go. And this was before she was even out to herself or her family, but the father had an inkling. And so she went, and he paid for her bus fare.
Interesting. Kind of like what we were talking about just before we started about how activism is really has to be kind of something true to the person, right?
Yeah.
Not just a fad.
Yeah, and something that you actually learn from your parents in a variety of ways.
Let's take a look at a little bit of your film, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more.
Wait, my glasses on straight. I identify as a woman-loving woman.
What? Yes, I didn't really know that I was a lesbian until I, had my first girlfriend, my first lover, and then it was like, aha. This is what I was meant to be.
With the Asian lesbian potluck, I'm not even sure how it all began. It was always about eating and having fun.
I would practice recipes for days to make sure that I got my grandma's soto ayam just right, or whatever I was going to make, the nasi goreng. I had to make sure that it was just perfect.
When I was looking at some of these scenes before, and of course I know Helen Zia and some of the people stuff, and we can talk a little bit more about some of the people that helped make this film. And we were talking earlier about how important characters, people are to a story. But, it's about love, it's about sex, it's about activism. When I was watching it, I mean, the way they all intertwine and they're all such deep feelings, that really comes across. That's what you're trying to capture in a film like this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they came together over things like potlucks. And part of the reason they did that was because the gay and lesbian bars or, social places in San Francisco were predominantly white in the 80s. And so it was in people's homes, in those kinds of spaces, that people could find community, they could share their interest in activism, and they could find their relationships.
Yeah, and it's all really about discovery, right? In each one of those instances, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the people. I mentioned Helen Zia, who a lot of people know as a well-known journalist, but some of the other people. Tell us a little bit about how this group got together and kind of the dynamic that you were seeking in terms of being able to tell the story through all these people.
Yeah, so Leah Shigemura, she was a longtime activist, very active in JACL, worked in Japantown, and she tells a story about how, she's working in Japantown, she's around Asian Americans all the time, but she had no idea that there were so many Asian American lesbians. So it was, again, meeting people in potlucks or being part of these other spaces that her whole world opened up, and she describes it as nirvana.
How about Helen? How did she get involved in this project?
Well, all of them have been interviewed for the Dragon Fruit Project, which is an oral history project that was founded by Amy Sueyoshi. And now API Equality Northern California has taken it on as an intergenerational oral history project highlighting the lives of queer Asian Pacific Islanders.
They all talk so much personally about their stories and everything. What's important to you that becomes the overall message of your film?
Yeah, I think it's breaking stereotypes about an older generation of API queer activists. Again, we think of the past as when it was a time where you had to be closeted, and there was a lot of difficulty around, with parents. And actually, I think so many of their stories express the different ways that families remain really close, even if people aren't out in the way that we think of conventional stories of what it means to come out.
It's really great that you're able to tell that story, and it's great that they have a film festival that gives you that forum.
Yeah, so Frameline is one of my favorite festivals.
Well, thank you very much for being here, and good luck with your film.
Thank you so much.
All right. Again, the film festival runs from the 18th through the 28th. Get the updated schedule and times on frameline.org. And coming up, helping those who need it. The Bill Wilson Center is in the spotlight next.